Hi, I'm Kimberly Moore, Executive Director of Community Christian Academy, and we are 1 week away from owning 384 World Drive, our school home where students can grow and flourish. For 6 weeks, we've been running a campaign called Faith to Finish, and we have asked God for $3 million so that we can move into the property debt-free. That way, our future fundraising efforts can be for scholarships so students can come to our school and not on a mortgage. In our first 5 weeks, we've raised $115,208, bringing our total giving since November to $1,713,465 towards the $4.5 million property. I know this is a far cry from our goal, but I do know two things. Number one, even with just a week, God can do a miracle to pay that balance if He wants to. But I also know that God will take care of our needs whether or not we have a loan. This week I was reminded about our humble beginnings. Nearly 15 years ago, we had a strong mission and leaders of faith, but we had no money and no building. Sounds a lot like CCA last fall. Another way that's similar to our beginning is as we became aware of our needs, God was quickly providing for them. For example, in months leading up to the opening in 2012, I was in a classroom cleaning and I suddenly realized we don't have a whiteboard in here. But that very day, a chiropractor calls me on the phone and says, "Do you have any information about the school that you can bring over?" Of course I did, so off I went. While I was having a conversation with her, she said, "What do you need for the school?" And I said, "A whiteboard." She said, "What size?" I had no idea, so I guessed 3 by 4. She said, "I have one in the back." My first thought was, can I get this in my car? And the second was, is it the right size for the room? Yes, we got it in the car, and it was perfect for the classroom. Weeks later, we had enrolled our new students, and I needed to mail them some information. I had been given envelopes, and I had paper, but I didn't have any stamps. So I decided I'm going to go over to Sam's Club. And in the parking lot, when I got out of my car, there, no one around, on the ground, were 3 books of stamps. We had exactly what we needed when we became aware that we had a need. If you've watched video 4 in our Faith to Finish series, then you heard about our furniture miracle. Well, it seems like God is following the same pattern that He did nearly 15 years ago. For example, a couple weeks ago, I suddenly realized more strongly than before, in a few weeks we're going to have to cut the grass. We've never owned a property where we had to cut the grass, but we had no lawnmower. So before you know it, in comes a call from a grandparent who's going to be donating a 0-turn lawnmower. Then I realized as I was looking through our new building that we don't have water in our classrooms. We only have access to water in the bathrooms and in the kitchen. What about science class? What about art class? They need access to water. Well, within a couple days, I found myself in a conversation with a prospective family. And as the mother is walking out the door, she says, "Oh, wait a minute. Could you use some medical and science supplies?" And I said, "Absolutely." But I had no idea what they wanted to donate. A few days later, I got a list of the items they are donating next week. On that list, 3 sinks that don't need to be hooked up to water because they're on a cabinet with big bottles that hold water. Perfect for our classroom needs. What we've realized as we've gone along is God always provides for His children to equip them to engage in His plan. Well, I've been asked recently, is it too late to give after June 1st? Not at all. Our loans do not have prepayment penalties. So feel free to give even after June 1st to bring down that debt so that we can spend time focusing on expanding and allowing children to come to school. Want to give a monthly gift? Yes, that is great for cash flow during the year. Some have asked, in-kind donations? Most certainly. Sinks. Equipment. We have 2 churches doing a supply drive to help us with teaching and cleaning supplies. $3 million seems so big. Could I pay for a smaller budget item? Of course. We have a couple that is funding the entire fine arts budget for next year. There's always a way that you can participate in the miracle that God is doing here at Community Christian Academy. If you want to participate, you can call me at 434-326-1145 extension 2. You can also email me at kmoore@cca-va.org, and you can give online at cca-va.org. Thank you for watching our Faith to Finish videos and partnering with CCA.